Thanks for joining us. I'm Christine Russo.
Thomas Malik saying he is happy his mother was alive to see the day he was finally able to walk free. Antoine, he's not alone in that sentiment. A lot of people we've been speaking to throughout the weekend say they really feel just lost here, like people kind of forgot about them. Earlier, we spoke extensively with a neighbor of that family, and she says she's actually the one who called 911 when a fight between the family broke out earlier this morning. And if you are one of the revelers who's going to come out tomorrow night, remember, again, umbrellas, you can't bring them in. It started at 6 a.m. and absolutely no signs of slowing down yet. Earlier, it was completely packed, a little bit less crowded right now, but you can hear the music is still going, the food is still going, the dancing definitely still going. Well, Steve, Natasha, the NTSB is now leading that investigation. They're going to be looking into what exactly happened in the moments leading up to that crash. Some of the water has receded by this point, but right now the wind is picking up, the temperatures obviously are dropping, and people are preparing for that next high tide, which is coming in around 8 o'clock. The mayor says he's also formulating a plan to let New Yorkers host some of these asylum seekers, like many European cities have done with Ukrainian refugees.
Well, the Yankees are reporting for spring training and hitting the field tomorrow. Fox 5's Tina Servasio joins us now from Tampa with how the team is looking this year. Tina. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says China did not offer an apology to the U.S. for the spy balloon incident. During an interview on Meet, Audrey has a final look at our forecast now. Audrey, how's it looking?
It looks really nice for tonight.
Lenny's Pizza closing after 70 years in business. The neighborhood came out in a big way to wish its owner a happy retirement and, of course, to grab one last slice of pizza. Fox 5's Stephanie Burt.
Good morning, guys. Bankman-Fried, he is waking up in custody in the Bahamas this morning. That's where he's going to be at least until February 8th. A judge there denied his bail because they're considering him a flight risk.
We're saying the Secretary of State had a candid conversation with counterparts in China. More on this first meeting since the spy balloon incident and China's response.
Natasha, it is the biggest party in the world and everybody is invited. It actually just finally got quiet right now as I started speaking. But the police commissioner earlier today said they are working. And the mayor says the current situation is just unsustainable. He says it's an all hands on deck situation, especially from the federal government, who he says needs to step up because the city is on track to spend $1 billion already by the end of this fiscal. Police tell us that one victim is still in the hospital and she's in stable condition right now. The others have been released. Now the case moves to the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. And anyone in Bergen County can get Narcan confidentially by the night. Police say they're going to have light towers to illuminate the route all along Eastern Parkway, making sure everybody stays safe and has a good time on Eastern Parkway. Christine Russo said the shelter opened yesterday, and apparently it's off to a pretty slow start, even though the shelter here is able to hold up to 500 people. Meanwhile, the mayor says the federal government is supposed to reimburse the city for these tents. And as for the father who was killed, the neighbor tells us he was a laid-back man who worked long hours to support his daughters. We're live in Bensonhurst. Christine Russo. Lori, Teresa, really emotional testimony today inside this courthouse. One of those men described the last 25 years in prison as a slow death. But for the men who spent a better portion of their lives in prison, they are finally walking free today. I met with one international student here who commutes into Columbia University, and he told me that the news of these attacks are going around on WeChat. That's a popular social media site. And even though there hasn't been a ton of media attention about these attacks, he says one thing is clear, that the student community here is really looking out for one another. A spokesperson for the mayor's office says that the Jersey City Police Department will continue community outreach and encourage anyone who is a victim of a crime to report it to the police. We're live in Journals. Antoine, we're back on B70th Street today. We were here just a few days ago. The Salvation Army says the sales from this store went towards adult rehabilitation centers in Newark. So they're asking if anyone can make a donation at this time to please do so. It was unconstitutional to ban guns in places like Times Square and in the subway. But New York State Attorney General Letitia James, she says she's going to be moving very quickly to appeal that ruling. And a lot of people we spoke to and met today say they're going to be staying with family in other parts of the city, at least until they can safely get back inside of their homes and sort of assess what the damage really is. U.S. prosecutors say extradition efforts are underway to get him back stateside. They also say more charges could come for anyone involved in the alleged fraud. Back to you guys.
It comes down to clarity in the law, and she admits there's been some confusion in the language of the law, which she says has led to a lack of accountability for judges making their decisions. So now she says she wants to simplify that law. He also talked about some of the new GOP plans he's seen so far, like an investigation into the Biden family and the administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, House Democrats, they're going to vote on new leadership November 30th. Teresa?
An unbelievable and surreal morning here in Farmingdale. Homeowners are literally picking up the pieces of the last 12 years of their life in this home. They tell me they are still in shock this morning. Regardless of everything they've been through, Laosa says he actually feels bad for that driver because he says he's ruined his life. But as for that driver, we're just learning that he was actually released this morning and will be back in court at a later date.
I don't make these decisions, Rosanna, but here we are. Well, the Pentagon, though, thankfully, they are watching that device, and they say it's been spotted over Montana. They say they have seen similar devices like this in the past several years, and they're taking the steps to make sure no sensitive information is stolen. With 32 teams and a month-long tournament, there's lots of opportunities for a big payout if you're up for it. That complaint filed earlier, and we are waiting to hear back. We're in Borough Park. Christine Russo.
Navigating the sidewalks is almost like getting through an obstacle course. Some people say the sheer volume of vendors has spiraled so out of control that it comes down to a quality of life issue. If you don't know much about wine, then this store kind of holds your hand through the buying process. So instead of being organized by countries like most wine stores, this one is actually organized. And again, the lifeguards reiterated that this was an extremely rare event yesterday, so they don't want to freak you out or deter anybody from hopping into the water this summer. But if you do want to avoid a potential shark encounter, they say one thing you can do is keep an eye out for any large schools of fish. If you see that, you're going to want to head the other way. Or just a few asylum seekers have checked into the Randall's Island temporary welcome shelter since it opened on Wednesday. The site is only for single adult men to stay for at least 4 days while the city processes them. We met a man from Venezuela who recently arrived to New York and is staying at another shelter. He says he just heard about this one on Randall's Island and wanted to find out more. We talked about why there seems to be less people coming to New York in recent days. It seems like less people are coming here now. What do you think about that? When I came here, everybody heard that there were many Latin Americans, Venezuelans, Cubans, Dominicans, people from Honduras that were here in New York. And now we're hearing that everyone is going to Miami or Boston to be with other family. Earlier, the mayor said the flow of migrants crossing the southern border has slowed down in part thanks to President Biden's announcement last week. He says that Venezuelan asylum seekers cannot cross the border while their asylum requests are being processed.
We were getting 8, 9, 10 buses. After we communicated with the White House, they responded. They put in place a decompression strategy. I think today we received 2 buses. Yesterday we received 2 buses, a substantial decrease.
Meanwhile, the more than 84,000 square foot facility here on Randall's Island remains largely unoccupied. Attorneys with the Legal Aid Society say the Welcome Center here might not be so appealing for those who just finished a long and often dangerous journey to arrive to the United States.
It is voluntary, so it's possible that the migrant individuals who arrived today saw the tent and said, this is not where I want to be, I'm not comfortable here, I don't think this is the right fit for me, and decided not to go there and went elsewhere.
This father from Venezuela arrived to New York City a few months ago with his family. Every day, he collects and recycles bottles, walking up and down Jamaica Avenue. Some days, he makes more than $30. He says it's enough to get diapers and milk for the week. The responsibility is mine. It's not up to the United States to help me. It's my responsibility as a father. He and his family are staying at this Queens shelter provided by the Department of Homeless Services. It's like a mini apartment. We have the kitchen and refrigerator and our own bathroom. He says they don't want to be seen as a burden. It's good. It's comfortable. A sentiment shared by Saray Alvarado, who also lives at the shelter with her husband and 2-year-old son. Because everything my kids went through to get here, at least they are protected. Alvarado has been here 3 months, and she says she and her family have been treated well. She only briefly met the Colombian woman who tragically took her own life last week here, and says she hasn't seen that woman's children since. She says the rules of the shelter are a bit strict when it comes to talking to other neighbors. The rules, you can't talk to the neighbors. We can go across the street to the park, but I think it's more dangerous out there, really. Meanwhile, the city says they're preparing for a bigger influx of asylum seekers. Mayor Adams announced their emergency relief plan to host up to 1,000 people in temporary tents in Orchard Beach. Other city officials questioning that solution.
Our system is bursting, and so we have a problem. That problem cannot be ignored. That problem is only going to get worse if we don't get additional resources from the federal government.
Wilson from Far Rockaway is one of the people whose homes got slammed by Thursday night's coastal flooding. We were on his street, B70th, on Friday, capturing some of that damage. That storm left him and his family without heat or hot water, just as temperatures dropped dangerously low. Governor Hochul and Queensborough President Donovan Richards held a press conference on Saturday, promising to get people here help. Goldie Maple Academy is where we met Wilson. He was looking for that help, but was confused to find the doors locked here. According to the Red Cross, the site was only open until 4 p.m., but Wilson says it wasn't clear. So we called 311 and was told the only immediate option for the family was to stay in a homeless shelter in the Bronx. But after making more calls, Fox 5 was able to get a Red Cross spokesperson on the line and get clear answers. In the meantime, Wilson and his neighbors are doing their best to stay warm. Well, if you're like this family here and you don't have heat or hot water, you can call 877 Red Cross. Hit #1 and that will set you up with an agent who can help get you your heat and hot water back as soon as possible. Reporting in Far Rockaway, Christine Russo, Fox 5 News.